Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well wherever you are today. So I came across this video that I want to share with you. I believe that it is important, and I saw this video and I felt like it's really important for we Africans and black people in general. And this is a pastor in Ghana, is a Ghanaian pastor. He says a lot of things that make sense. I mean, even what our political leaders cannot say in public, they stand up and say them. At least few leaders that we have says such kind of things, and we need these kind of people in our society. And I understand the plight of pastors today, and it makes a great picture in talking about the political structure of Africa and betrayals that Africa has ever faced from their own people. People betrayed Muammar Gaddafi. People betrayed Kwame Nkrumah, and many more African greatest leaders that had good for Africa. So there's a pastor in Ghana, and I understanding what everything which is happening in Ghana today, it forces even the pastors to enter into the political talks, which is important because politics structures everything, including the economy of the country. Politics structures a lot of things. Even how people socialize depends on the politics. Our country runs depend on politics. So with this video, we'll show you why we have always betrayed ourselves, we as Africans, or we as black people in general. So I want you to watch this video and later on come back and talk about it.
We blame the whites for the slave trade we went through. We blame the whites that they offended us. They took us as slaves. But let's wait for a minute. Who sold the black man to the whites? Who sold the black man to the whites? Our own traditional leaders. The enemy is not outside. The enemy is within. Look at our traditional leaders and the slave trade. We blame the whites for the slave trade we went through. We blame the whites that they offended us. They took us as slaves. But let's wait for a minute. Who sold the black man to the whites? Who sold the black man to the whites? Our own traditional leaders. The enemy is not outside. The enemy is within. If we are asking the Europeans to pacify us and also to apologize to us, our traditional leaders must be the first to apologize on behalf of their ancestors for the evil they have done against their fellow blacks. Look at our attitude towards the environment and the destruction of our water bodies. All our river bodies have turned into dark brown, and you know what they said? In the next 20 years, if we don't stop this illegal mining, Ghana, we will import water to drink. Yet we don't care, and Chinese, they will come from their country into our forest, destroy our forest, destroy our land, and illegally mine and damage our waters. How can they come if the traditional leaders didn't give them permission to do that? And in one instance, while they were dead, our military went there to protect them. Our own military that is supposed to protect us rather protected the foreigners to destroy our water and destroy our forest. The enemy is not outside, the enemy is within. If you look at our own systems and structures in our country, we don't have a better system to improve the lives of people. Pastor, I was surprised when I read in China they had a 10-year vision, and they said from 2011 their vision was that in 10 years from 2011, and 10 years from 2011 will be what year? This year, 2021, that they will raise over 20% of the people to become multi-millionaires. Now in 2021, they have 1.8 million Chinese who are multi-millionaires in China, and they are between the age of 40 to 50 years. Multi-millionaires. The government intentionally decided that they will make sure they will have 20% of the population multi-millionaires. They also agreed that they will make sure that they will lift up the poorest of the poor, and they lifted 100 million people from begging to live a better life. But in this country, In our country, we fight our own businessmen. Our government will fight our business people. When they know that your business is thriving, and they know that perhaps you are not sympathetic towards the running party or the ruling party, they will fight you, collapse your company, and make you poor. When in China, they want to make the people rich. In Africa, we want to make our own people poor. The enemy is not outside, the enemy is within. Look at our African leaders. How much they stole, the money they stole away. We are told in Gambia, Jamal Yaha, he stole 11 million US dollars from his own country, Gambia. Sani Abacha stole between 1 billion to 5 billion dollars out of Nigeria. Hosni Mubarak stole 17 million US dollars in 8 years. The enemy is not outside. The enemy to our own progress is within. Look at our presidents, the presidents who were fighting for our independence, what we did to them. In Togo, the man who fought for the independence of Togo, called Sylvanus Olympio, when Togo got independence, he decided that they would not use the French franc, the French CFA. They decided they will have their own Togo currency. And you know what? They used Iyadema to kill him and to get rid of him. When Olympius wanted to make Togo great, the enemy within, the Judas within, killed him. In Burkina Faso, the man who gave them independence, Maurice Yamego, was eliminated by his own people. When Thomas Sankara came, his own body group killed him and got rid of him. The enemy is not outside, the enemy is within. You look at our own country, Kwame Nkrumah started a new vision to develop Ghana, and who undermined him from within? They threw him out by Kotoka. Today we celebrate Kwame Nkrumah, but their own Judas will damage him. I pray that the man who organized that coup to betray Kwame Nkrumah, and for us to name our airport after him, Kotoka International Airport, I think we should start a national conversation to change the name of the Kotoka International Airport, because as long as that name is, we have endorsed coup, we have endorsed enemies that will fight the progress of our nation. We must change the name of Kotoka International Airport to Kwame Nkrumah International Airport. The enemy is not outside, the enemy is within. We need to ask God to give us a new character. Let's change our behavior and have new values, because the person will be smiling with you, smiling with you, yet he will stab you at the back. How can you have a father who wants to destroy your life? Yet in Africa we have governments that do not want to make the people or improve the lives of the people. When in overseas, their governments have created an environment for every citizen to be better. Why is it that our governments can't think about the welfare of the citizens, and we kill the businesses of our own?
So guys, tell me what you think about what the pastor have said. And I believe it's important, and I'm also disturbed by these facts. Why is it that we Africans, our African leaders, are always the ones to betray us? Africa has been struggling to develop. Africa has been struggling to stand up as a nation. Africa has been struggling to stand up as a continent. But you realize that our enemies are always closer. The way the pastor was saying, the enemies are always closer. And these people goes to the weakest links, and that's our African leaders. And that's where the rain started beating us, we as black African people in the African continent. This is where the rain started beating us, because you realize that when we have weak leaders, it is easier for them to be used as puppets. It is easier for them to be used just like some puppies, like anything, which is so sad. Africa, we are always planning, we are always trying to plan, but what happens? Our leaders, what do? They try to do the same thing that they always do. What is it? It is to betray Africans. It has gone to an extent where even pastors now have to talk about this in churches, to spread awareness to everyone, so that everyone can see everything which is going on in the country. African countries are falling into debts. African leaders take these debts and they do things in a certain way in which they want the oppressors. They pass laws, they pass a number of crazy things that they want Africans to do. so vigilant for African leaders, for African people who are woke, so vigilant for African people who sees what is right and who sees what is wrong. What do you think is the solution for this problem? What type of leaders do we want to see in the new phase of Africa? What is the solution of the problems which are facing Africa today? In South Africa is in shambles down there. Ghana is in shambles somewhere there. Nigeria is in it's always about the talk, The youths are not employed. People don't have jobs. They have to resort to the same perpetrators, what they do to Africans. These same perpetrators sell drugs to They sell drugs to African youths. And the fastest way of killing an African youth is, if you want to kill a nation so easily, is to introduce drugs in those places. Because when you introduce drugs in those places, those people will not focus in what is important, but they will focus in what they can do at the moment. For instance, Nigerians are being blamed of drug trafficking, and in different countries. That's what it's always being said about Nigerians. I wanted to realize this. The oppressors have played us. The oppressors have always found a way of manipulating Africans to fight amongst themselves. Of course, I've seen Nigerians being chased from South Africa. I've seen Nigerians being chased out of my country, Kenya, today. I've seen a number of things happening. But did you take some time to understand that it is these people who also uses our leader? They reduce sanctions which look at things like drug entry into Africa, and they make it easier for them to import these drugs in our African country. Drugs from Mexico, drugs from the United States, they come in Africa. Then who are the buyers? Who are the sellers? Who are the drug dealers? They are the youths, but which are being monitored by the oppressors who are up there. The same oppressors use our leaders as puppets. And now, due to the small amount of dollars which they are being deposited in their bank or deals that they make, makes our African leaders also become so blind to the things which are happening to us. And I salute these pastor for opening up and talking about this thing. These people know very well that the future is in Africa. These people know very well that they have to take down Africa in the fastest means possible. I wanted to look at an example. Look at any slum in Africa. You'll find something which is common in all slums in Africa. There is high usage of drugs in those countries. So when there is high usage in those drugs in those countries, it means that the people who are supplying these drugs know that Africa has potential, and they ask to keep it poor with all means possible. And I thank this Ghanaian pastor for coming up. I think he is so tired with the oppression, with everything which is happening in the Ghanaian government. Not only in Ghana, but also Africa in general, because the references and the allusions that he makes, he makes it in reference to other African countries. He talks about Sankara, it is so sad that it is 21st century, but we still have to wake up to the same things which happened during the colonial times. It is about that time our Kenyan government, it is about that time our African government say no to being puppets to these people. Just say enough is enough. They don't want to do this anymore. I want to see more people advocating for this. I understand, and I do appreciate the role of the church. Remember, in Kenya, the church is the one that also advocated for devolution. The church for the time of Oginga Odinga, it is the church who stood with the citizens and said no, we want devolution in Kenya. That's where we came with devolution, which is even today. You understand the role of church today in everything which is happening across the world, because they need to address these issues. The Bible itself is not enough. They need also to talk about everything which is happening in the continent. And that's where we come to know the truth. I believe the truth reaches the safe hands. And Africa needs to know this. Africa needs to play its part in knowing this. Until then, peace. peace, love, and harmony. If you watch this video until you reach this point, kindly consider subscribing to my channel. I'm just 2K subscribers. Help me reach 3,000. I'll highly appreciate. Until then, peace, love, and harmony. Salute. This is Eugene from Kenya.